Level 989.
Welcome to a 989 on Health Extra. These quick supplements should help ease any withdrawal symptoms you may experience while waiting for our next full episode. So, Mike, what's on today's agenda?
Last week we had an off-the-cuff episode where we chatted about some of the basics of the Lone Star tick and the meat allergies it can cause. As I mentioned in that episode, I see the off-the-cuff chats as just a very basic intro to a topic, and if listeners are interested, they can do further research on their own. But as I was editing the episode, I realized that there were literally hundreds of unanswered questions that I had about ticks, and I knew that I was going to have to research the answers to these questions for my own information. And it just makes sense. If I'm going to do the research, I might as well put it to use and turn it into an episode. I wish I could shed more light on the Lone Star tick itself, but there's still too many unknowns about it and the meat allergies it causes to say more about it specifically. Now, there's a lot of very detailed information that we all need to know about ticks, and I could go on for hours about all the do's and don'ts, biologies and behaviors, so understand you're still going to have some unanswered questions. I'll have links in the show notes, as always. Let's start out with exactly what is a tick. Ticks are arachnids, which means they're related to spiders. And so while you wouldn't call ticks insects, since they're arachnids, not insects, some of the differences include insects have 6 legs, while arachnids have 8 legs. Also, arachnids don't have wings or antennae. Like any creature on this amazing planet, there's a wide diversity in ticks. There are hard-bodied ticks and soft-bodied ticks. They have a variety of preferred hosts they like to get blood from snakes to birds to deer to cattle. And they're surprisingly long-lived for a bug. Their lifespan is up to 3 years, depending on the tick. Most ticks go through a series of 4 stages in their development, and they need a blood meal during each stage if they're going to survive. Depending on the tick and their options, they may have a different host for each stage. So the old idea I had of a tick latching on and staying forever isn't necessarily the case. I'm not even sure where I picked up that misinformation. This host-swapping tendency increases the likelihood of spreading diseases. You might think ticks prefer warm-blooded creatures, but really they're just out for blood. So reptiles, amphibians, birds, mammals, and remember, you are a mammal, are all possible hosts for a tick. Alright, let's quote from the Centers for Disease Control here. Ticks find their hosts by detecting animals' breath and body odors, or by sensing body heat, moisture, and vibrations. Some species can even recognize a shadow. In addition, ticks pick a place to wait by identifying well-used paths. They then wait for a host, resting on the tips of grasses and shrubs. Ticks can't fly or jump, but many tick species wait in a position known as questing. While questing, ticks hold onto leaves and grass by their 3rd and 4th pairs of legs. They hold the first pair of legs outstretched, waiting to climb onto a host. When a host brushes the spot where a tick is waiting, it quickly climbs aboard. Some ticks will attach, that is, bite, quickly, and others will wander, looking for places like the ear or other areas where the skin is thinner. End quote. So let's say you're an unlucky winner of the Get a Tick lottery. What's going to happen? Well, I'm going to quote from the CDC again. Ticks transmit pathogens that cause disease through the process of feeding. Depending on the tick species and its stage of life, preparing to feed can take from 10 minutes to 2 hours. When the tick finds a feeding spot, it grasps the skin and cuts into the surface. The tick then inserts its feeding tube. Many species also secrete a cement-like substance that keeps them firmly attached during the meal. The feeding tube can have barbs, which help keep the tick in place. Ticks can also secrete small amounts of saliva with anesthetic properties, so the animal or person can't feel that the tick has attached itself. If the tick is in a sheltered spot, it can go unnoticed. A tick will suck the blood slowly for several days. If the host animal has a bloodborne infection, the tick will ingest the pathogens with the blood. Small amounts of saliva from the tick may also enter the skin of the host animal during the feeding process. If the tick contains a pathogen, the organism may be transmitted to the host animal in this way. After feeding, most ticks will drop off and prepare for the next stage of life. At its next feeding, it can then transmit an acquired disease to the new host. Alright, so now that we have a better understanding of what happens, how can we avoid getting bitten by a tick? Well, the answer is a mixture of avoiding wooded and brushy areas. If you're on a trail, stay in the middle of the trail. but brushy areas might include your own backyard, depending on how on top of mowing you tend to be. So we're talking careful tick avoidance when it comes to overgrown undergrowth, also clothing, also chemicals, also vigilance. Many ticks do not attach right away, so you might be able to see and remove a tick while it's still crawling around looking for that tasty spot. Visually identifying a tick can be tricky. They vary quite a bit in size and shape. I've put some good links to pictures in the show notes, but just verbally, they can be a super tiny little dot that you'd probably miss during a visual inspection, say the size of a poppy seed, and up to 10 millimeters, or just a bit under half an inch. If you're going to be outside and want to reduce your risk, wear long sleeves and pants and socks and actual shoes. None of that flip-floppery you kids seem to love so much. Light-colored clothing will help you more easily notice and remove a tick. Black clothes, not so much. There's an assortment of chemicals you can use to help deter ticks. Quite a few are listed on the CDC website. Repellents containing DEET, something called picaridin, oil of eucalyptus, and a few more with very chemical names that are probably better read than said. You should keep in mind the repellents that work for you as an adult might not be the best choice for your 2-year-old child or your pet. So read through the information I've linked to at the CDC and choose the correct repellent for every member of your family, from your pet snake to your pet owl to your pet husband. When you're done outside, do a thorough check of your clothing for ticks. Putting your clothes in the tumble dryer on high for 10 minutes is thought to kill any ticks you missed. So choose your outdoor clothes that are made of fabrics that can withstand that sort of treatment. Next, you want to take a shower soon after coming inside. While you're disrobing, you might notice a sneaky tick that's made it through your clothes, or wash off a tick that you haven't noticed yet. Though I should mention a shower is unlikely to dislodge a tick that's already feeding on you. Good places on your body to check are under the arms, in or around the ears, in the belly button, the back of the knees, in or around the hair, between the legs, and around the waist. Basically everywhere. So let's say you discover you have a tick that's feeding on you, and you need to remove it. All you really need are tweezers, and I'm going to quote from the CDC again. Use fine-tipped tweezers to grasp the tick as close to the skin's surface as possible. Pull upward with a steady, even pressure. Don't twist or jerk the tick. This can cause the mouth parts to break off and remain in the skin. If this happens, remove the mouth parts with tweezers. If you are unable to remove the mouth parts easily with clean tweezers, leave it alone and let the skin heal. After removing the tick, thoroughly clean the bite area and your hands with rubbing alcohol or soap and water. Never crush a tick with your fingers. Dispose of a live tick by putting it in alcohol, placing it in a sealed bag or container, wrapping it tightly in tape, or flushing it down the toilet. Avoid folklore remedies such as painting the tick with nail polish or petroleum jelly, or using heat to make the tick detach from your skin. Your goal is to remove the tick as quickly as possible, not waiting for it to detach. Really, the more I learn about ticks, the scarier they are. But as I mentioned before, there are some simple things you can do to cut your risk of getting bitten. One example from my own life is I've been going to the gym the past month or two, and the gym is literally 2 minutes walk from my house. How great is that? But the way I would need to walk is a grassy field that's not very well maintained. There's a lot of tall grass and weeds and scrub, and while it seems really silly to drive to the gym when it's so close, I'm greatly cutting my risk of getting a tick bite by avoiding that unkempt field. As always, there are lots of useful links in the show notes. Be sure to check these out for more details. Thanks again to our great listeners for sending in suggestions. If you'd like to send in your own topic for consideration, head on over to level989.com/contact and make it so.
That's all for now. You can find links to read more about today's topics at level989.com. Why not take a moment to rate or review us in iTunes, or give us a mention on social media? We can't help everyone if they don't know we exist. Don't rely on us as an alternative to medical advice from a professional healthcare provider. For the full disclaimer, please see our website. Thanks for listening, and now, go health yourself.